God is sovereign. He's in charge. He knows what He's doing. Nothing is a surprise to Him. Nothing is out of His control. Nothing is beyond His plan. We may not understand. We may not know. Often we don't. But God knows. We see this in so many ways through Joshua, but today we see that God has given them the land. And you have to believe that God is sovereign to know that He's given them a land that's guarded by a raging, rushing, deadly river and a fortified wall with people ready to fight. All of that would look crazy if it weren't for the fact that God is sovereign. He has spoken. He has declared who owns that land, and it's not the people that currently occupy it. God is sovereign. But the next part of that is that even though God is sovereign, it brings about the fact that we are required to respond by faith. If you just look at this passage on the surface level, you might say, well, man, Joshua had a lack of faith. Why did he send spies if he really believed? Well, we look at this and see that 40 years earlier, Joshua was one of the spies that was sent to look at the land, same land that's in question right now. Joshua looked and he came back and said, we can take it. Let's do it. He was overpowered by the other spies that were afraid. So Joshua was not afraid to go into Jericho. But what he did know is that God had a plan, and so because God had a plan, it required Joshua to step back and say, God is going to give us victory. But it's not going to be haphazard. It's not going to be just by chance. It becomes me responding passionately, intentionally, strategically with faith and obedience. Can we say the same of our life? As we passionately study the promises of God, do we see our part in that? Yes, God brings it about. Nothing happens outside of His will. Nothing happens except for by His power. But can we see over and over and over again in Scripture the giants of the faith, those that we celebrate for their acts of bravery and obedience and faith, always understood that God is in control. But man's response is to passionately, strategically, intentionally, with everything we have, say, what is God's next step for me? And for Joshua, it was to send a couple of spies to search out the land and get ready, because in a couple of days, that's where we're headed. We need to know what's there. They found out beautifully that God had already provided a prostitute to, be there and be this source of protection. And you'll find the same in your life as you passionately say, I'm going to pursue God's next step for me today. You'll find that He's already there. He's already many steps ahead. He's already worked out all the details. He's working for good, all things according to His purpose for those who love Him. You'll find as you prioritize pursuing God, strategically, intentionally, passionately, He's already met your needs before you even knew you had them.